Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Yo, what's going on?
What's happening?
Just looking at 58 this morning.
58.
That's our last one.
Did we do it?
We will, as of today, we would have discussed every chapter, all 81. Now, a lot of them we did not do a recording of, but we've talked about all of them.
Yeah. Is there like a diploma or something?
Just emptiness, hopefully.
Yeah.
A reward of emptiness. Marshall Davis responded, I was sending emails to the wrong email, and he would love to come on and talk with us.
I'm really interested in that, like the overlap of, like Taoist thought and Christianity, all that stuff.
Yeah, I am too. I think that would be enough of a conversation without having anything in particular to discuss. Because we all have a similar path. His is just, I think he's much farther than we are, but he's on a similar path. So I would like to see how he arrived. I've heard his testimony, so to speak. In one of his podcasts, he talks about it. It's close to the beginning. He talks about how he started this journey. So I would love to hear how it happened for him. So the 58th chapter, I was just going through the Jonathan Star, seeing what our make your own translation would look like.
Oh, sure.
You just want to read the 4 this time, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, whatever. We can do all of them or part of them or whatever.
Let's just read them all.
All right.
When the country is ruled with a light hand, the people are simple. When the country is ruled with severity, the people are cunning. Happiness is rooted in misery. Misery lurks beneath happiness. Who knows what the future holds? There is no honesty. Honesty becomes dishonest. Goodness becomes witchcraft. Man's bewitchment lasts for a long time. Therefore, the sage is sharp but not cutting, pointed but not piercing, straightforward but not unrestrained, brilliant but not blinding. Okay.
All right. If a country is governed with tolerance, the people are comfortable and honest. If a country is governed with repression, the people are depressed and crafty. When the will to power is in charge, the higher the ideals, the lower the results. Try to make people happy, and you lay the groundwork for misery. Try to make people moral, and you lay the groundwork for vice. Thus, the master is content to serve as an example and not to impose her will. She is pointed, but doesn't pierce, straightforward, but supple, radiant, but easy on the eyes. Okay?
If a government is unobtrusive, the people become whole. If a government's repressive, the people become treacherous. Good fortune has its roots in disaster, and disaster lurks with good fortune. Who knows why these things happen, or when this cycle will end? Good things seem to change into bad, and bad things often turn out for good. These things have always been hard to comprehend, thus the master makes things change without interfering. She is probing, yet causes no harm, straightforward, yet does not impose her will, radiant and easy on the eye.
Well, okay. When a nation is ruled with a light touch, people lead simple lives. When a government is harsh and demanding, people will spend their time trying to outsmart it. Happiness is rooted in misery, and misery lurks beneath all joy. Who knows what could happen tomorrow? Everything is relative. What's considered proper today may become improper. Correct appearances may hide dishonesty and sinfulness. No wonder so many people get confused. The masters have sharp minds, not sharp tongues. They are austere, but never judgmental. They are straightforward, but not proactive. They are brilliant, but not flashy.
Okay, I got a new book this week. It's The Tao of Recovery by Jerry L.
Okay.
His interpretation. Do I?
There seems to be a Tao of almost everything nowadays, so that's
several
good.
Taos of recovery. So this is his interpretation of the 58th chapter or 58th verse. The Tao tells us that the government that stands apart is the one that the people are most receptive to. It teaches us that when it interferes, the people slip away. The true elders of recovery make no attempt to govern. Guiding is not governing. To allow things to take their natural course will help to reduce enabling. My recovery is not yours. Your recovery is not mine. I learn from you. You learn from me, and we do not interfere.
I learn from you, and you learn from me.
And we do not interfere. I like this. To allow things to take their natural course will help to reduce enabling. I can see that. Yeah.
Let's see. You want to throw the Tao of Christ in there just for good measure, as long as we're reading them.
We'll have him next week. We might as well.
Oh man, starts off with some good politics here.
Oh yeah, that's what we need.
When government is small, everything runs smoothly. When government is intrusive, the people push back. Unhappiness cannot exist without happiness. Happiness would not be known without unhappiness. This cycle never ceases and is without limits. Normal breeds abnormal. Good gives birth to bad. This dance of opposites is the fabric of everyday life. Christ acts but does not coerce. He is bold but does not attack. He is righteous but does not judge. He is light but does not blind.
My notes from a prior.
It's a tough one.
Do what?
I don't know. It sounds like a tough one, you know?
Maybe acceptance.
Sure.
And with every action, there's a equal and opposite reaction. You know, when we push, there's pushback. There's always that pendulum swinging. And the further we push the pendulum in one direction, we're going to create the opposite action by pushing it so far. So it would seem to me that the goal would be to live above the pendulum, where there is no push and push back. It's interesting how it says you try to make people happy and you lay the groundwork for misery. Try to make people moral and you lay the groundwork for vice, the opposites. So you push it in one direction, you let it go, it's got to go back the other direction. Like the swing set, you know, the further you push your friend up on the swing set, the further they're going to go back, you know. You remember that, where you'd push them up and you'd run all the way through and push them up as high as you could?
Yeah, sure.
And they want to go higher. And you go higher by pushing them higher. They're going to go back the other way. I mean, it's just the pendulum swing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think this is probably a good example of, you know, even though it's talking about the government, it very easily applies to your own life, your own personal life.
And he talks about the good and the bad, that the good things seem to change into bad things often turn out for good.
Yeah.
That pendulum.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that, the more you force things to happen, the more unintended consequences you're gonna have.
That's why I said, yeah. Then it gives what the master does to kind of live above the pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
It's content to serve as an example, not to impose her will, not to push. She's pointed but doesn't pierce, straightforward but supple, radiant but easy on the eyes, not blinding, not radiant but pretty, but radiant.
I tell you, I've never been accused of being easy on the eyes.
That's why we're doing a podcast, I'm radio material. I am not TV material.
Let's see. What is? We'll read this is the Mitchell commentary.
Okay.
Chapter 58, second stanza. I've improvised here. The text reads, prosperity rests on disaster. Disaster is hidden in prosperity. Who knows the line that separates them? The normal becomes the perverted. The good becomes the monstrous. People have long been confused about this. I wonder if there's some, like all this like good and bad stuff, there's some, and like one of the earlier verses, talks about, has this opposites thing is kind of a recurring theme, like opposites being mutual, they, creating each other.
Right.
It feels like there's also this element of, at least in this verse, some saying just, have some humility, like you don't, the stuff that you consider good, you don't really know how it's all going to work out. The stuff that you consider bad, you don't really know how it's all going to work out. That kind of thing,
I have a note down here to reference the Taoist farmer on this one.
Yeah, that's the story I was thinking about.
Oh, cool.
I was afraid we talked about it too many times, so
hey, it applies a lot. Why not? You know, and it applies to this one too. I think that we've got recurring themes through these verses. Probably 3 or 4 if we've never identified them, but for me, this one would be acceptance. This theme of accepting life like it is without, the whole point is to be happy in what's going on, not necessarily to try to change what's going on. Mm-hmm. You want to share that story?
I mean, I don't know it well enough. I don't know if well, now that I think of it, I don't know that anything that's been recorded, we've told it. You can retell it just for reference, but I mean, I know the story you're talking about.
Everyone tells it a little differently, but the way I've heard it that I liked the best was that it was a Taoist farmer. He was a farmer and had a horse that he used on the farm to farm with. And his horse ran away. And his neighbors came up and said, "Isn't it awful that your horse ran away? How are you going to work your farm? What are you going to do?" Mm-hmm. And he said, "I don't know. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. Maybe it's not. I don't know." A few days later, the horse shows up again with several wild horses. So now he's got all these extra horses. His neighbors come up again. Say, "Isn't it wonderful that your horse ran off and brought all these wild horses back? Now you can sell them and you're a rich man." Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I have no idea, really. It's good or bad. Mm-hmm. Then his son was out breaking the horses, getting them ready to sell, got bucked off and broke his leg. Laid up in bed, not able to help with the farm. Neighbors again. I think I would get me some new neighbors or quit having them come around. Isn't it awful that your son broke his leg and now he can't help you on the farm? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. His answer is the same to everything, right? Good or bad, perceived.
Yeah.
Then the army comes by, confiscating all the young men to fight in a war that they probably will not come home from. Probably will die in battle. They could not take his son because his leg was broke. Neighbors again. Isn't it great your son's leg was broke, that he didn't have to go to a war? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Same answer every time, no matter how extreme the circumstances are. Real good, real bad. I would have answered half those things as, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. All that stuff that we use, when things happen that we can't, that we perceive as good, this is wonderful, And then when it's bad, it's this too shall pass, or, something that, that we don't understand, what the outcomes, all those things that we use, we may not say those things, but in our head, we'll go through them, or I do, Well, I don't know how this is going to turn out. It might look bad, but maybe I know it'll turn out for good. Maybe I have to get my gratitude list out. I didn't see the Taoist farmer getting his gratitude list out, or talking about God doing these great things for him that he could never figure out. None of that.
One of the things that I heard, in recovery that it helps me a lot was somebody said, everything changes. No, it doesn't matter what it is. Everything changes.
The only thing that does not change is that everything changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only consistent.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that verse that says that hope is as hollow as fear.
Yeah.
That hope and fear are both illusions. I've heard it said that way too. That really would fit with the Taoist farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Hope and fear are the extremes, right? The pendulums. Maybe when we're afraid and we push toward fear, we're going to create hope to try to bring us back to the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got a list here of the personal applications of this, of how a description of the sage.
Okay.
1, the sage was content. 2, the sage was an example. 3, the sage did not impose her will on others. 4, she had a sharp mind, but not a sharp tongue. 5, she was not judgmental. 6, she was not straightforward, or she was straightforward. 7, she was brilliant, but not flashy. 8, she makes things change without interfering. I just had those notes from a previous look at this chapter. Maybe where we've recorded all these chapters with the group, and for some of my notes from, I think, a group discussion on this. If you look back through, if anyone that's listening that doesn't know, they can go back through our old episodes and go. We've discussed every chapter at least once, if not multiple times. At one point in this self-translation, it says, "Is there no right or wrong?" They're asking the question: does it really matter? What is it?
Yeah.
Straightforward and normal things change into abnormal, deceitful, crafty things. The good changes into evil. The people have gone astray for a long time. Therefore, now we get to see how the sage does it. The sage is sharp, but not cutting. Has integrity. Let's see, it's honest, has integrity, yet does not hurt or pierce or injure. Well, I've seen people that sometimes that have integrity that use it as a way to damage people, as a way to hurt. They want to cut you up with their righteousness kind of thing, Because the sage doesn't do that. Straight as a line, straightforward, direct, honest, consistent, does not deviate, yet does not overreach, is not a bully, is not tactless, is not correct at the expense of others. Brilliant, enlightened, but yet does not blind. Uses one's discrimination to see all things equally and not using the sharpness of the intellect to cut up or divide the world into differences.
Yeah.
Straightens without stretching might mean aligning one's actions with heaven naturally without forcing things. The sage shows people their own inner light, and they are guided by that light. He does not shine the light on himself. That's good. In other words, he lets others talk about his accomplishments, not himself. I think that's the whole idea of living above this pendulum, like we could live right here in the point above it, like the middle breaths.
Yeah.
The middle.
That's I guess that's the thing. It is interesting, if you're talking about a pendulum, you mentioned earlier they were talking about the right or wrong. This is definitely, probably of all of the verses, is there that makes you ask the question, is there any such thing as right or wrong? This one definitely gets you to that question for sure, which I don't know what the answer is. I'm not sure that it would that from this verse you could say there's no such thing as right or wrong. I think more than anything, it's just saying you don't know what that is. You know what I mean? It's not that it doesn't exist. It's just that you're not in a position to make that final judgment of, is this right or wrong, because of how intertwined they always are.
That takes me back to how I used to pray for things to be a particular way based on my perception of what I needed.
Yeah.
And that has moved to me never praying anything for me at all because I really don't know what I need.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the same thing, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. It's some of the, some of the Lord's Prayer stuff, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Because, what is my will? What is my idea of what should happen? But, a terrible guess.
Yeah, this idea that the good's rooted in the bad and the bad is rooted in the good and that they're all connected. And we really don't understand what we need. How many times in my life is something bad, what I perceived as bad, ended up being something really good, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So I have difficulty now asking God for anything. Even the Bible says that God knows what you have need of before you ask. If he does, then why ask? Mm-hmm. If he already knows, so it's not like God has short-term memory problems and he can't figure this out. And, I forgot that, Buddy needed this. I'm glad thank you for reminding me, buddy. I'll get right on that, that whole idea is it's been thrown out.
Yeah. I think, the whole idea is to call into question, what you really need, instead of, imposing your will on, instead of imposing your idea of the way it should be on God or the universe, or
on others.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what happens to me. If I'm upset about something, I take it out on everyone else and myself.
Yeah.
That I'm doing something wrong that, how about this from page 417 in the big book? And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to skip on down. When I complain about me or about you, I'm complaining about God's handiwork. I am saying that I know better than God.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I find it's the best thing that has ever happened. Talking about being an alcoholic. Best thing that's ever happened to me. This proves I don't know what's good for me. Or in other words, it was good for him to be an alcoholic. One of the things that seemed so horrible ended up being good.
Yeah.
And if I don't know what's good for me, then I don't know what's good or bad for you or for anyone. So I'm better off if I don't give advice, don't figure I know what's best, and just accept life on life's terms as it is today, especially my own life as it actually is. Before AA, I judged myself by my intentions while the world was judging me by my actions. That's the 58th verse.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
It's all acceptance. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Shrug your shoulders at whatever's going on. Smile at it. Whatever it is, good or bad, if it's starting to upset you, just smile.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I try to do.
I like that idea of acceptance a lot. And at least for me, I find that a lot of times it's tied up a lot in with humility. Because if there's something that I can't, it's very much the page you just read, if there's something that I find unacceptable or uncomfortable or whatever, a lot of times I think I have a better idea of how it should be. And if you can notice those things and take a moment to, think about things like this verse that says, good fortune has its roots in disaster. Disaster lurks with good fortune. Who knows why these things happen or when the cycle will end? You don't know why it's happening. Whatever it is happening, you don't know why. And you don't know that this is the end of the thing. After whatever happens, if it's so bad or so good, whatever it is, it's going to be over and the next thing's going to happen. You know what I mean? And good things change into bad. Bad things often turn out for good. These have always been hard things to comprehend. This is what it says right here. The Bible talks about that all things work together for good that are in Christ. it also makes me think of the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. Stuff just happens. And
didn't Jesus say shit happens? Did he say that somewhere?
I think so. Yeah, that was in there. That's one of them for sure. The Sermon on the Mount, I think.
Us next week with Pastor here. I'm going to have to be on my best behavior.
Well, I don't know. I doubt he'd kick you off.
I'm going to be in control, so maybe he'll stay.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's just acceptance, man. It's accepting the day as it is. And it's interesting how in the Mitchell translation, the first description of the master is that he is content to serve as an example and not to impose her will. That really is a good description of my warning flag of disturbance, that if I'm disturbed, there's something in me that needs to change.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to run the show, because I am not accepting life on life's terms. I want things to be different, and I am not taking the steps necessary to get rid of that discontent.
Yeah. I think, what was it we were talking about, or one of the groups or somebody was talking about the other day, not, talking about like, not even, and this is the real place you want to be. I think it's when to be able to get to the point where you don't even want people to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were talking about that with acceptance. Is that one thing that a tool we can use for that when it's bothering us? And I tried this on my wife, and it actually worked, because she has some little quirks that I just don't like. She's developed over time that I swear was not her quirks when we first got together. Maybe I just didn't see them then, right? Anyway, I said, whatever it was, I wouldn't even change that if I could about her. If I could take a magic wand and say, whatever, and it was something little, like silly stuff, but that's the stuff that annoys me the most.
Sure.
And I would say, if I could get her to never put the butter back where it goes and then complain because the butter's not where it's supposed to be, when she's the one that moved it, right?
Yeah.
If I could change and her to put everything back where it's supposed to, in its place, I would not change her. All of a sudden, it did not bother me as much. I mean, I know that's something little and annoying, but there's little annoying things. I'm just that way. And I'm learning to just not be that way, to accept her as she is. And that was a great tool to use for that. What's some tools you use for acceptance?
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is a story about a great tool or not, but I was thinking about just very recently. My wife was trying to get me to go along with something that she knew I didn't really like, and I was like, you know what? You're not gonna get me to tell you what to do or not to do. You're not gonna get me to say, like, you know what my opinion is, and you're not gonna get me to, but I'm not gonna tell you what you can and can't do. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna tell you, like, yes, you can go do this. No, you can't go do that. Whatever. I'm just not gonna do it. And I was like, I might stuff it down deep inside and brood on it and be resentful about it for a long time, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. And she was like, well, that's as much, that's as much as I could ask from you, or that, it was, but yeah. So, and I'm not suggesting, I'm not suggesting that, stuffing it down inside and being resentful is a genuine solution, but it would be interesting to not have a will to impose, I don't know.
Well, the way I do that, we talked about the way with traffic is I think about that person being me. That's a tool I use for acceptance.
Yeah. Well, and not to get too weird, she's just so people don't think I'm talking about, we were talking about like a nickname for our kid, and she had one picked out and I didn't care for it as much. And anyway, but so I was like, I'm not going to tell you what you can call him, what you can't call him. I'm just going to be resentful about it. But anyway, I don't know.
There's a lot of good tools we could use, though, if we're really having a problem accepting something or wanting to change something or some person about. For me, it started with, who am I do I have any right to impose my will on them? They have just as much of a right to have their opinion as mine.
This is humility, basic humility.
Yeah. That's good. Praying for them for the resentment. If you've got a resentment against them, that works. For me, in little things, just smiling at people when they start aggravating me helps.
Yeah.
I can't smile and be angry, a little anger at the same time.
Yeah.
Those kind of things help me with my acceptance.
Yeah, I think so. And we've probably mentioned it almost every time we've ever talked, but so much of this, very easily ties back into meditation and stuff, because it's like the real secret to dealing with any of these things is, the first thing is to be aware they're happening. You know what I mean? And meditation has helped me a lot with that, to be able to be in a moment and realize, like, hey, I'm trying to get this person to go along with what I want here. You know what I mean? Or I'm trying to make it happen the way I want it to happen. And there's probably some things I need to let go of. And when you can recognize that in the moment and not like a week down the road, it's a lot easier it can be easier to correct once it doesn't dig itself in.
Another thing for me too is I used to think everyone was doing those things to me.
Yeah.
And I'm learning not to take anything personally now.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife, the way she treats me is not even personal. She would treat any husband she had that way. That would be her response to any husband she had. It's not her responding to Buddy. She's not picking on Buddy. She's just picking on, she's insisting on her husband being that way, whoever her husband would be. If I hadn't have married her and she'd have married someone different, they would be getting fussed at because the butter's in a different place too. And that makes me, if I'm not taking it so personally, like they're attacking me and only me, then I don't feel as alone in it. I don't feel like I need to attack back as much.
Yeah.
It takes a degree of it away,
Some of that Course in Miracles stuff, I guess, like you're just like, everybody is always, we're either asking for love or sending love, one or the other.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I love you, I'm loving me, but when I'm attacking you, I'm also attacking me.
Yeah.
Both. It's just interesting how I had a little epiphany on that maybe a week or two ago. I don't think we've talked about it, about the body and how, if we're all this big body and my hand's infected, and I continue to damage my hand, and don't take care of my hand, I'm really hurting me. I saw it a little easier in that, and so if I start taking care of my hand, I'm thinking my hand is separate from me, right? I don't like it. It's hurt in some way. It's infected, let's say. I've got a cut that's infected is something I could use. Well, if I don't bandage it and clean it and take the rest of the body to work on that, it makes the whole body hurt. And it could actually kill the rest of the body if I don't help the hand. And in helping the hand, I'm really helping the rest of the body. So if I'm helping another part of the body, another person, then I'm really helping me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just interesting. We've talked about that some before, but I got another level of knowing in that, that it's a little more real. It's moving a little more toward heart knowledge. It's not there yet, but it's moving from head to heart.
Yeah.
That, the person I'm trying to control is really me.
Yeah.
The problem's really not what they're doing. The problem is I'm not happy with me.
Yeah. It's the great thing about AA. There's a slogan for everything. What's the one about the what is it? If I'm not the solution, there's not a problem. If I'm not the problem, there's not a.
If I'm not the problem, there's not a solution.
There you go. That's the one.
And it's true.
Some of them are too catchy.
Some of them are pretty. Sometimes they get a little hokey, but of course they were written almost 100 years ago. So.
Well, I mean, it definitely applies. I just flows together so smoothly. I couldn't get it out straight.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Good. That's good. It just is. It's not good. It's not bad. We just try to accept life without interfering. Kind of like being the observer, the passerby, like they talked about in the book of Thomas.
Oh, yeah. I need to finally read that. I really do.
You want to read it one Wednesday? We could do that. You want to read it sometime? What do you want to read next?
Well,
do you want to go back through some more chapters?
We do need something next. What's interesting is what was I? So, God, how long have we been doing this now? It's been a couple of years. Better?
Yeah.
More. Yeah. It's amazing how long it takes you to work your way through 81 verses,
Well, we'd miss a week or talk about something else or something. So it's, it's taking time.
No, it's fine. It's not like there's a, it's not like there's a, timeline or anything, but
let's do the Gospel of Thomas or the Book of Thomas, whichever one it is. I'll look there's two of them. There's a gospel and a book in the Nag Hammadi. I'll look and see which one's the one that we quote all the time. One we quote all the time, the other we don't. So I'll look at it and figure that out.
Yeah, we can look at it for sure. But so one of the things that I thought was interesting was talking about the Marshall Davis, one of his recent podcasts. He was talking about the Gospel of Thomas.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah.
And so I had picked up a couple of his books, and on the Tao of Christ was one of them, and I was looking at his other ones, and which I haven't read it yet, so I couldn't say much about it, but his other one, one of his other ones is called Experiencing God Directly, and I was like, well, man, that seems like it, if there's anything to get, that's the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, I better go ahead and pick that one up. So anyway, I was just, like thumbing through it, and he talks about like there's, you know, like they have like a lot of times books will have like a little quote just on its own page by itself at the beginning, you know? And so he has a quote from Brother Lawrence. And I just thought it was funny because it reminded me of like when we very first started reading through the Tao stuff. Like right before we started, we were going to read through the Brother Lawrence book. It was,
would you like to read that? Have we not read that one?
We started it. We started it.
Okay.
And what happened was when we started that book, like we would sit down to talk about it, and you'd be like, "Here, check out this verse in the Tao that I was just reading."
Yeah.
And then we would wind up and we would talk about that. And so we did that for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, you know what? This seems to be what we're the direction we're going in right now. Why don't we just read that? And you were like, yeah, let's do that. And anyway.
That was even before we started the podcast, I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while. But I just thought it was interesting, you know, seeing it. Thought it was an odd place for brother. Well, it's not really an odd place, but I just thought it was an interesting place for him to pop back up, you know.
Yeah. Now, Marshall Davis did a translation of Brother Lawrence.
Did he?
Yeah. I'm reading that with another sponsee right now.
His translation or the regular one?
His translation.
Okay. Interesting.
We can read anything you want if you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have an idea. I was just thinking about it.
It's good. It's real good. It shows that same idea of emptiness, that same idea of surrender, of taking the moment for what it brings. And having an open heart toward what I can do in the moment rather than what I can control and contrive.
Mm-hmm.
Very much the attitude that we're supposed to have from the 58th verse here. You know, content to serve as an example, not impose my will, radiant but not blinding, straightforward but not imposing, causing no harm. Anything to add to this?
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Are you good?
I'm good, man.
We'll see you next week.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.